Situation. Thanks a lot for joining in. But let's cut across to Shireen Bhan. She's in conversation with Vasant Narasimhan, who is the global CEO of Novartis. Shireen, over to you.
Right as well.
We already have one manufacturing center here in our Sandoz business. I think beyond that, where we really focus right now is what we call our technical development capabilities. So a lot of our technical operations where we do a lot of the drug chemistry, some of the other things, that's what we do right now in Hyderabad. I think longer terms in terms of manufacturing, we're not in need of more capacity at the moment, given that we've actually trimmed our business down to focus as a pure-play medicines company. So no plans for manufacturing at the moment.
You know, since you talk about the aspiration to move towards becoming a pure-play innovative medicines company, and of course the Sandoz spin-off is part of that strategy, let me talk to you about what we can expect as far as the portfolio in India specifically is concerned. You've already divested some of your drugs here to JB Chemicals, Dr. Reddy's. Is that likely to be something that you continue to do? And in terms of the global pipeline, what will you bring to India?
When you think about our Indian story, it parallels our global story. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell the longer history of Novartis. I mean, we started out as a chemistry company, a dye-making company. So our relationships with India go back to the 1800s. And then really formative relationships in pharmaceuticals starting in the 1940s. You know, since that time, we've evolved from a healthcare conglomerate, and then over the last 5 years, with $100 billion of transactions, transformed into a pure-play innovative medicines company, where we really try to be at the leading edge in 5 therapeutic areas, places like cardiovascular disease, cancer, neurological disease, and then these new technology areas which we think can transform medicine. And we now try to bring that innovation to India consistently and at scale. So some of the things that I think I'm excited about are in cardiovascular disease. We have a drug called Entresto for heart failure. And now we try to bring a drug called Leqvio for high cholesterol. We also have done a lot in immunology with our whole immunology franchise, another area I'm interested in. And probably the big area now is cancer. And how can we be one of the lead partners with India in cancer? The last part of the story, which is probably people don't know as much about, is the amount of work Novartis does in leprosy, malaria, sickle cell disease, diseases that also affect the broader range of the Indian population.
You know, I'm glad that you brought that up, and specifically as far as sickle cell disease is concerned, this is something that made its way into the budget for this year in the finance minister's speech as well. But even on issues like malaria, and I think the concern has been that not enough R&D dollars are going into addressing some of these high disease burden challenges. So give me a roadmap of what we can expect as far as Novartis is concerned.
I mean, Novartis has a long history of investing in tropical diseases. I mean, we just recently committed in the Kigali Declaration in Rwanda, hosted by a range of global leaders, $250 million to continue to invest in research in these areas. Our history goes back actually 30 years in malaria, where we were the company to pioneer a drug called Coartem, which is the most widely used anti-malarial in the world. Now going forward, we have a dedicated R&D center. We're working on novel anti-malarials. Clinical trials are ongoing right now in Africa and India, with the idea to get even better treatments for patients with malaria. But then we also work on new diseases. You know, when you think about areas like leishmaniasis, cryptosporidiosis, which is a type of diarrheal disease, and of course sickle cell disease, as we discussed. And I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention that, you know, we are the only supplier, global supplier of drugs to treat leprosy. So our partnerships in leprosy span across India and are really fundamental to our ethos in the country.
So what are the big challenges that you face from an Indian perspective at this point in time? I understand that it's an important strategic market from a capability point of view, and that's what you're hoping to expand on, but not necessarily as a commercial market at this point in time. It's not one of your focus markets. What's the expectation in terms of growth going forward?
You know, there's so much potential here, for sure. And I think as the middle class continues to grow in India, the demand for more healthcare is going to continue to increase. India also has world-class medical centers. When you think about research, development, we're the leading multinational in doing clinical trials in India at the moment, so it's quite significant. I think the challenge now is for India to make the transition from being a primarily generics market to trying to support innovative medicines. And other countries have made that transition, most notably China. China decided to really forcefully look at IP and data protection, start to create a national reimbursement framework, modernize their drug regulator. And as you know, China has a really blossoming biotech sector. I think over the next decade, India can make that transition. And if India makes that transition, I would expect a large biotech sector to also come up here. Also, the diaspora could start to come back as well and really create those companies.
You know, you talked about the diaspora, and this gives me the perfect segue to address the issue that everyone's talking about, the number of Indian origin CEOs who are running global corporations today, Vas, and you're one of them. When you hear about, people talk about this, there's almost this collective sense of ownership. How do you feel about this?
I mean, I think it's amazing on the one hand, and I think a lot of it comes down to, why I would think about it is our forefathers and grandmothers and grandfathers who worked so hard to give us the opportunity, give somebody like me the opportunity to be educated in the U.S. and have all of the opportunities that I have. So I always think you stand on the shoulders of giants, and there must have been many giants walking around India, 50, 100 years ago.
If so many of you made it to the top.
It's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. So we've never all gotten together to really discuss how it happened, but I certainly know many of the other, and I know they all feel a lot of pride about it.
Okay, we are very proud as well. I mean, Indian CEOs leading the corporate world globally, who would not want to see that, right? So that's Vasant Narasimhan. We'll, of course, get you excerpts through the course of the day on what Novartis makes of the global move, as well as the expansion plans that they have over the next couple of years. Let's take a quick break. On the other side, we will connect with Nitesh Thakkar for some technical trades.